You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick, both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, Dave DiCenso, has been a teacher at Berklee College of Music for almost 30 years, and he has a full schedule of private drum students as well. He has an incredible history of touring and recording with many artists in diverse genres, and he's coming out with his third instructional book very soon. He's also working on a solo album which will feature his guitar and vocal skills as well as his phenomenal drumming. So come along with me as I catch up with Dave DiCenso. Dave, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Sarah? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love your energy for early in the morning, too. We're recording early in the morning, and you have all the energy.
I'm not a morning person, so I'll take that compliment.
Absolutely. We're trying, we'll get our energy up. We'll we'll get through it.
Well, I'm not coming off a delayed flight at 2 a.m. So if you need any help with energy, you can count on me.
I appreciate that so much. I'm hanging in there. Maybe it'll be nap time later today, but for now, doing okay.
Good.
So tell me how you've been.
I have been good. I mean, in terms of professionally,
Yes.
The world is seemingly crazier and crazier place. So, if you ask me how I've been with regard to just the state of the world, that's a different story, which we don't need to go into. But professionally, I'm good. I'm teaching a pretty good amount, actually. I don't teach. I take the summers off from Berklee now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I've done that for years, but I'm back to it because I went back to teaching summers for a few years. Now I'm back to not teaching summers at Berklee, so I'm making that up here at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing a fair amount of teaching this summer. I'm really enjoying it. I've got students from all over now that I'm, doing Zoom and Skype. And
yes, absolutely.
it's kind of cool.
That is pretty amazing. I think that one of the things that the pandemic gave to us was new technology, right? And
Yes.
all of us adjusting a bit. And so does it look different for you, the way that you teach? And were you doing this before? Or are you just doing more of it? Or is it like new technology for you?
No, this is all new. I was not doing this before. I mean, I would have students requesting it, but I would the vast majority of the time I would say no. Occasionally it would be someone, like a friend or a famous drummer, and I'd be like, okay, all I got is a laptop, and I could put it on the floor if you need to see my foot, but the audio's not going to be great and the video's not going to be great. So I was doing that very, very little, and now that's all I do. I don't even have students come to the house anymore for a couple of reasons. One being I really only have room for 2 drum sets in this room, and I like having 2 different kits.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a meat and potatoes kit like this one right here, and then the one behind it is I've got all kinds of assorted sounds and different experimenting, and I just don't want people coming and moving my stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
And then this bigger reason, if not bigger, is just my ears. I'm trying to teaching online. One of the best things for me is I can monitor my students very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
and I've got a lot of hearing loss and tinnitus, constant ringing. So my ears are, unfortunately, my ears are a problem, but this makes it a lot just more comfortable for me. I feel less afraid for my hearing. So those are the reasons I'm not teaching in person anymore. And I'm, there are some downsides. There are some, cons for sure. And I do miss, at times I do miss seeing people, giving people hugs and just,
Yes.
I love that. So I still get that at Berklee with my Berklee students. But the pros are pretty cool.
Yeah. So tell me about that. So you have professional drummers coming to you. Are they coming to you with specific requests? Like, I need some instruction on this particular thing, or like, how is that working?
It's usually particular things,
I like that you
actually,
just,
no, go ahead.
for anyone not watching and just listening, so you just opened your black book. So I love that.
I just opened my black book. I've got two black books. I've got my year-round students, and then I've got my summer students. And like this guy who's coming today, actually, Evan, he's getting ready to go to Nashville. He's great drummer, great guy. He was a former Berklee student. Actually lives locally, but but like I said, I've been doing these all online, and he's just wanting me to watch him. Like, he's submitting videos, and so I'll assign songs. And he's submitting videos, and I'm just giving him feedback, trying to help him get ready for anything. He's a versatile guy, versatile drummer. And so I'm just trying to help him become as versatile as he can be, and give him pointers and tips, and even just life advice, psychology. I talk a lot about psychology, with just in general. So you know what, I could go on and on with it, but I'll tell you this: as much as I get specific people asking for specific things, I get a lot of students who just say, I just, I want you to help me do what you do. Not necessarily like they want to cop all my stuff, so to speak, but just, a lot of, I get a lot of the same requests, like about flow, feel, phrasing, improvisation, groove, time. People know that I have systems for training our ears to be able to hear more simultaneously. So a lot of people come to me for that. So a lot. I teach, like, it's not odd for me to have 3 or 4 students in a row where I'm like talking about the same exact stuff.
Sure. Yeah. And that's great. And I'm sure like your experiences with one student to the next are helpful for the others, because you're hearing what the concerns are, and, common themes and all of that. But that's really interesting that you brought up the psychology of it, because I think there's so much of that. That's such a big part of it. So someone who is moving to Nashville, going to do their thing, and maybe work Broadway and try to get gigs and that kind of thing. And there's so much mental stuff behind there, and I just think it's great to have someone like you give your experience and your advice and talk through those things, because that's a big part of it.
It's a huge part of it for a lot of people. I can't say that all people need that kind of help.
Hmm.
I've played with people um, who have no performance anxiety.
Hmm.
Um, so I know that those people exist, but I
Sure.
was not one of those people. I had a ton of performance anxiety, um, and I just have, over the years, I've had a ton of students come to me with that specific issue.
Hmm.
And, I worked through mine. I still struggle from time to time. Um, it's not, at least in my experience, it's not something that you um, just like finish working on. Like it's over. I'm past that. It's done.
Right.
It improves,
Yes.
and my performance anxiety has dissipated incrementally over
Right.
the years. um and and I, if I, at the risk of tooting my own horn, I feel like I'm really good at helping people in that regard.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you said, like you said, I think you said, big it's a big issue. You could be the baddest mofo on the planet, and if your head is in your way, boy, it's not fun.
Right. Right. And I'm sure you have seen that, and I have seen that, the really, really amazing talent, and just can't get over that, that anxiety, and it can be completely debilitating. I've talked to drummers who have different techniques for, how to deal with that, and I think one of the big themes that comes up is like the more you face it, the more you kind of force yourself to
Hmm.
just like be in that, and I will say the same thing for even like public speaking. I just remember days where getting up and introducing someone at a show or something like that would be, I would have so much anxiety about that. And that was just for a few minutes, So thinking about playing a show for a couple of hours and facing that anxiety for that amount of time every night, it's
Hmm.
challenging for sure.
I will say that for me, well, I was going to say, usually it dissipates, like it would be, maybe for the first couple of songs. But I've
Mhm.
had shows where it had lasted
Right.
the whole night, and I've said to many students, there's no worse, and this is not true, but I'll say it anyway. There's no worse place to be than in the spotlight when it's the last place you want to be. What
Right.
it's just a horrible feeling.
Mhm.
Um,
Right. Yes,
so
yeah, all eyes on you.
yeah.
One artist that comes to mind is Craig Blundell, and I'll just say that, and he's played really big gigs. He's an amazing drummer, and he has this technique where he goes out, during sound check, and he focuses on a few different things in the venue. So he'll see like an exit sign, and he'll remember where that exit sign is, and he'll see like, this is this particular piece of art if it's in a theater or something like that. And then when he goes back out to play the show, those are familiar things that he can focus on and say, okay, that's there and this is there. And he can kind of like center himself using those points of reference. And I was like,
Hmm,
that's a great idea. I like that.
interesting.
Right. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
Huh.
I mean, it's amazing. You're a fantastic teacher of music, of drumming, and then you have this other aspect to you, which is really valuable to your students, and that's so great.
I agree. I feel the same way. I'm really grateful to be able to bring that into my teaching, and it's something. You know, eh, I already alluded to this. Like, it's not something for me, that I graduate from. That I'm done. I no longer have these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So teaching, often I feel like it's a reinforcement of the
Yes.
same. It's like I got to be listening to the words that I'm saying.
Right.
So it
That's a
becomes
good
like a
point.
practice, like you ever hear the term teaching practice, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
call it a practice. That kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does. It makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And at Berklee, what are and you've taught at Berklee for how many years has it been? It's been
I
a
started
long.
in 94.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
94.
That's amazing. And I just want to mention too, like you come from your dad was just an incredible teacher. We have to mention your dad, Dick DiCenso. I of course, so just here's the connection here. I grew up on the South Shore of Massachusetts, and Quincy, Massachusetts is where the drum shop was, right? So and your dad, Dick DiCenso, was like, when I was a kid, he was the instructor everyone wanted to study with. Um, and I remember his schedule being so booked up when I was starting, and it was hard to get lessons with him because he was so in demand. It was incredible. And besides the amazing teacher that your dad was, he was an amazing person. And I think that it just shows in everything that you do. I see so much of that in you as well.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. Did you actually study with him? Did you ever get a chance to
I
study with him?
didn't. I didn't. I ended up kind of going through the school system, and in my school, which was great. I had great teachers.
What school system?
It was Whitman Hanson. Whitman
Okay.
Hanson.
Yeah.
Same school system as Steve Smith, actually. Fun fact.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah. So you went through the school system.
Yes, yes. So I never got a chance to study with your dad, but meeting him years later, and just like, warm is really the word I would use to describe him.
A
Always,
lot of
always so warm.
a lot of people have used that word, and it's really well, I appreciate you bringing him up. I love talking about my dad. Um, he he I'm also extremely grateful for my dad, and I unfortunately became more aware of that gratitude after he died.
Hmm.
um you know he he's my connection to everything that has come in my professional life. It all started because he started it. He was the first drummer, the first musician in the family.
Hmm.
um and ever as far back as I can remember, there was music and drumming, and I he was incredibly supportive. um and I've said this on other occasions to various people, that I wish I told him a few more things
Of course.
before he left us, but I'm extremely grateful for him, and it's just awesome to continuously hear what an impact he made on different people, and how much people loved him. There's something really special about that for me, um, to know so many people felt similarly to the way I felt about him.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And just a couple of things. One of my favorite days at Zildjian was you coming in to do a clinic, right?
Yeah.
To perform,
Yeah.
and your dad came and your son came. And
Yeah.
so to see the three of you, the three generations, and the interaction between your dad and your son was just so beautiful. It was amazing. And then to see your dad watch you play and how proud of you he was beautiful too. That was just, it was just such a nice time, a nice experience, and that kind of stuck with me. And then, you mentioned his impact on people and the scene and the future drummers. I just think it's amazing that you're carrying that on, and you're doing it in a way that, when he was teaching, the technology didn't allow, so you're able to kind of spread that all around the world, which is incredible. So that just, I love that you're doing that. I'm sure he is very, very proud of you too. So
Thank you.
it's just, yeah, that's a wonderful thing. And, besides the teaching, which is such a big part of what you do, I do want to talk about the playing, like the touring that you've done and how versatile that is, because I think of you and I think of you, if I had to describe a genre, it might be like heavy rock maybe, but I can't put you into a category because you have done so much in the metal, and then touring with Josh Groban. It's like there are a lot of facets to what you do, for sure. But did you start playing metal music? Was that your first thing?
Uh, well, professionally, yes.
Hmm.
Well, actually, even that's not even true, because my first paying gigs were when I was like 15 and doing, like GB gigs.
Okay.
GB, for those who don't know, is general business. You do in weddings and holiday parties,
Hmm.
birth, anniversary parties, that kind of stuff. And you know, I always tell people, like, that was so hard for me because I really struggled to play quietly.
Hmm.
I wasn't very good at that. And but then, because I was playing metal at the time, and progressive rock, metal, I was into hitting hard. And then I then I started, getting out in the Boston scene. And yes, it was playing metal. And yeah, so that's where it started. And, but it's weird because my love of music did not quite line up with my playing career. So, in other words, like, I loved all kinds of music.
Hmm.
And I did love metal, and there are aspects of it I still do love. Um, but there was so much music that I loved that I didn't play, because I was into metal, and that, as I was coming of age, so to speak, that's where the opportunities were for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I got sort of pigeonholed into, like, being this metal progressive rock guy who hit really hard.
Really
And that
hard.
was
Yeah.
one of my calling cards. It's like,
Hmm.
I thought it was cool. The people thought it was cool that I hit hard. And I even had a couple of engineers very early on just be like, yes, you freaking hit the drum so hard. And that's awesome. And I'm like, cool. Cause I love to do that.
Hmm.
So, um, but I guess I was versatile even in those days, versatile enough where people, really a pivotal moment is, you were talking about Mangini earlier. I don't know if we were on air yet, but
No, we weren't. But
I don't
I was
think we
just,
were.
yeah, I was just letting you know that he was my last interview, and of course, we're all from Massachusetts, and so it's like the Boston contingent lately.
Yeah, exactly. So, a pivotal moment for me was doing this thing in 1989 called Boston's Best Rhythm Section Competition.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually that's how I got signed with to Zildjian via Lenny DiMuzio.
Wow, I
Because
didn't know that.
it was me, it was Mike and his bass player finished first in the, so we went to the finals, and there were 5 top finalists, and Mangini and his guy, Phil Bino, finished first, and me and my guy, a guy named Hans Glavischnig, an Austrian guy, I believe, great bass player, we finished second. And so one of the cool things that happened, like I said, was the Zildjian endorsement. But another cool thing was a bass player from, a bass player I didn't know approached me, asked me if I was interested in, playing. And that led to me playing with a band called Mystery Jones, which was not really metal. It was hard rock. Funky-ish hard rock, so I was able to get my sort of funk on, and I had been to the Drummers Collective at this point and back. Now I'm back in Boston, and I had I had studied with Rod Morgenstein, and he got me into like some cool like ways of, he called it 2-surface riding, where you're like playing the ride cymbal and the hi-hat at the same time that you're coming down with backbeats. Gives you this sort of stereo, almost stereo image in the high end, in the cymbals, and then getting that backbeat. That was really interesting to me, and I was applying that. And then I also was studying, I had studied some Afro-Cuban drumming and Brazilian drumming, New Orleans drumming. And I was sort of bringing that into this band called Mystery Jones. And Mystery Jones led to playing in a band called Fahrenheit, which was a very popular band in Boston. I did that for about a year and a half. So Mystery Jones did a show with the guitar player Robert Holmes, who was in Till Tuesday. He now had his own band called Ultra Blue. We opened for them. He saw me, said, "Hey man, like Fahrenheit, I play in Fahrenheit. They're looking for a drummer." I was like, "Sure." Because at that point, I was ready to be a sideman, which prior to that point, I didn't want to be a sideman. I wanted to be in a band and like make records for decades and tour the world for decades with one band.
Right.
That didn't work out. And so now I had sort of put a new hat on, and now I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just going to be a sideman. And so before you knew it, I was playing in like 3 or 4 bands, original rock bands. And they were all different. It wasn't metal, but I was still getting calls for metal. And now I'm getting calls to play with hardcore metal bands from New York City, the Cro-Mags, and then a band called Shelter. And I was playing in a couple of different fusion things. So this was all happening like in the 90s. It became actually very, I felt like I lost focus after a while. I did that for about 10 years, just saying yes to everything. And it was fun for a while. And a lot of it was really fun. But then it just, I don't know, I wasn't enjoying myself as much. I've always had a desire to write music as well. And I play different instruments, I sing. And I think that played into me getting a little kind of disenchanted with being a sideman and always feeling like the odd man out and feeling like that's a bit harsh to say, but there were times I felt like I was kind of just sort of floating around and didn't belong anywhere.
Sure.
And some people, that's what they want to do, and that's, I don't look down upon that lifestyle. I just slowly discovered it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm at this point, I can say I'm proud of the work that I accomplished in terms of being a versatile player, someone who could convincingly, really cover a wide variety of styles. Like to go from the Cro-Mags to, Josh Groban or to Hiromi, just
it's amazing. I'll say it. It's amazing.
It was hard work too, Sarah.
Yeah.
Like, it was not easy it's like I didn't just pick these gigs up and be like, yay, no problem. It's like you really have to focus on different aspects of your playing and it's not just physical aspects,
right.
It's physical as well as musical aspects and how you're thinking and, the role that you're playing. It was
absolutely.
It was hard work.
And how you're listening, like you mentioned listening and training your ear earlier. And I think like that's hugely important, how you are listening in those different environments and in the different genres of music that you're playing. Like with Hiromi, the listening aspect, right? And the exchange between musicians, I think is probably way more intense than a gig where you're up there as, you're straight ahead rock and roll drumming. It's just a different thing. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sarah. It was I say was because I'm not really pursuing that anymore. That being that guy who can, there was a time I in my own head, I was saying, I want you to be able to do it all, Dave. I want, and I let some of that go pretty early on. Like I knew I was never going to be a great bebop player because I was never going to put the time into it to raise my skill level to a place where I could consider myself, or other people consider me a great bebop player. But outside of that, and maybe a couple other styles, I was like, it was a goal of mine to be as versatile as possible and to be able to say yes to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
That was good. It served me well.
Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, you're just at a different point in your career where you're able to kind of focus on one thing or focus on the teaching, really. One of the things, though, that I see recently with you is you're posting these videos and you're playing guitar and you're singing. And a video that you recently posted, I think you captioned it something like, it appears that I taught myself to finger pick, something like that. And it was like the most amazing thing, Dave. I'm like, what do you mean? Like you're just you're finger picking the guitar and it's beautiful. And so what I'm seeing is you expressing yourself musically, like however you feel that day. And that's beautiful.
Thank you. It's, that's, I've often said I love playing guitar and singing as much as I like playing drums. I love writing music as much as I love playing drums. I just had to pick drums because I felt like at the time that I needed to start making a living, I was better at drumming than any of that other stuff. And but now I'm at a point where I don't want to be. I would rather be home helping to raise my boy
Mm-hmm.
and indulging my passion to write music. I've I for this year was going to be my year to make my debut record, and it still is going to. I'm going to start it this year,
That's
but
great.
and I've got a bunch of songs written um, that are ready to go. Lyrics, arrangements are done, and but I got sidetracked because as I started to do that this year, my problems with my tendonitis just it's like they I hit a ceiling where I was like, I have to do something about this. I have to try something new because I've been working on my body in terms of the health of my muscles and tendons
Mm-hmm.
related to drumming and guitar playing
Right.
for years. And I've made a ton of progress, but I still hit this ceiling where like, damn man, like I don't want to be dealing with this anymore. I'll
Mm-hmm.
wake up and my left arm will be numb, and it's like I've got to teach right now,
Right.
and it feels weird to just even hold my stick, and I've got
Right.
to demonstrate, and then playing guitar this year, the same thing. It's like, man, like I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
So I decided to put myself into like a self-imposed rehab, and I my buddy Dave Elich sees a he's got a physical therapist out
Mm-hmm.
in
I was
L.A.
just gonna ask if you've talked to Dave Lich. That's great.
Well, yeah, Dave recommended my that I see his physical therapist
Mm-hmm.
because I think he saw a post or something
Mm-hmm.
of me, like, complaining or something about, talking about something with, my body.
Sure.
um Plus I think, we've just talked in passing. He's privy to my struggles to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, i've been I've seen this woman twice at this point. But in the meantime, I've put together, with a little help from her, a program that I'm sticking to. Um, and she showed me a way to stretch that nobody had ever shown me.
Wow.
So between it's called myofascial release, which is where you're trying to separate the muscle fibers that
Mm-hmm.
have fused together
Mm-hmm.
from overuse. Um, so the two main disciplines are myofascial release and this type of stretching where you contract your muscles within the stretch. Those two practices, plus stuff I've always done like icing and heating. I've put it all together. Plus I'm doing some light strength training,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at some stuff. I've never stopped looking at stuff that I can do behind the drum set to make my life easier, just in
Sure.
terms of technique and efficiency. And so
Yes.
I'm putting that all together, and I don't know. I started like in May, June, so I'm about 3 months into that,
That's
um,
great. How are
and
you
it feels
feeling
good.
now?
It feels good.
Good. That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
It's amazing what physical therapy can do, but also like consistency, with a regimen. I think I believe in, strength training and stretching combined. It does amazing things. I had a nerve like bundle kind of thing in my bicep
Mm.
a couple of years ago, and so much pain. So, and it lasted a long time, because I think one of the things that a lot of us do is try to ignore it and think it's going to go away. And it does not work. But physical therapy was incredible. I was just like blown away by how great it worked, as long as you put in the time to do what you're supposed to do, right? And that's just such a big part of it. So I'm so glad that you're feeling better, though. And I think that's really important to, as we are getting older as musicians, adjusting, right? Making the adjustments, like you said, behind the kit, to our regimens, to, how we're treating our bodies, because it doesn't get easier, you know. And it's really an important thing to think about. And a lot of the drummers that I talk to on this podcast have been through, Mike, for example, he's been through a lot of different things going on with his body too, and making adjustments to work it out. And you can play. I mean, we know how many drummers that we know play. They're like in their 80s, 70s and 80s, and like playing like, like they're kids, and that comes from really paying attention over the years, I think, to what they're doing. But so that's good to hear, though. I'm really, really glad to hear that. And I do want to mention some of the things that you have going on right now. You are teaching, of course. If anyone wants to book a lesson with you, actually, let's talk about how they do that. How does someone reach you?
Just, I get messages on Instagram, messages on Messenger. That's how people get a hold of me. And, like I was saying earlier, I open up hours over the summer, like additional hours, to take on more students. So if anybody's listening right now and you want to try to get me for a lesson this summer, just hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. And I don't really have much available right now, but I would do my best. And then if I put people on my waiting list.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, I'm very grateful and happy to say that my schedule is always full, and I always have a waiting list, and I do my best to make sure, that I get to that waiting list when something opens up. So basically, I've got, I'm teaching, I'm proofing this new book that I've got that will probably be released. I was thinking it would come out by now, but it will definitely be out this year, maybe September, maybe PASIC,
Wow,
around
that's so
PASIC
exciting.
time. It's going to be through Hudson, both digital and physical. It's called Fluid Fills and Musical Phrasing. It's my third book. It's my best book in terms of how it's put together and how it's laid out, and just it being user friendly. And it offers in completion one of my, I should say in totality, one of the systems that I teach that I call the last to first method. I won't go into it, but it's an awesome system, if I do say so myself, for helping people become more fluid in their phrasing, and more musical in their phrasing. And of course, in this new book, I've got what I call the above the neck disciplines, which is helping people to improve what I call oral cerebral coordination. I'm getting pretty nerdy on you, Sarah, but
no, it's great. It's great. Keep going.
Oral cerebral coordination, how much you can hear and process at one time, which all great musicians are great at. And, there are different ways to get there, to get to that goal of being great at that. But I've developed a system to help people do it all on their own, meaning you don't have to be, you should do all of these things. You should be playing with people, and you should be listening, and work in improving your listening skills that way. You should also be listening to music, and listening, not just in the car, or not in the background while you're painting your bedroom or whatever, but, listening.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, I've developed these systems that you can work by yourself to improve your oral cerebral coordination. It's really exciting for me, because it works. It's like this shit work. Can I swear?
You can.
Shit.
You can swear. Yes.
Shit. It works.
It works.
It
That's so
works.
great.
And it's fun, it's one of the things I love about teaching these days more than ever is I'm better at it than I've ever been. And it's fun to do shit that you're good at.
It is fun, right?
Especially if you're helping people.
Yes.
It's just like, it feels really good. So this new book, Fluid Fills and Musical Phrasing, will have these systems ensconced in the book. And then, the other thing, excuse me, the only other thing I'm focusing on right now, like I said, is my physical well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm logging a lot of hours, and I've logged a lot of hours over the years. Like I've spent so much time working on making sure that I'm as healthy as I can be to play drums, like game ready,
Yes.
And I'm hitting it hard, and in a couple, like I said, this physical therapist to give me a couple of just avenues that I haven't quite gone down that are helping a lot, and then just my own self study. It's crazy. I've been playing drums for 50 years, and a couple days ago I was up at 1 a.m. working on like fine-tuning technique.
Mm-hmm.
After all these years, and it's getting better. It's still improving. So and then once I get out of this rehab sort of mode, I'm gonna get back to making this debut record.
Yes, that's so exciting, Dave. And are you recording all of the parts on it? Are you thinking you're going to do that?
I am going to record all the parts that I'm able to record, that I feel like, this is good. This, there could be a better guitar player out there. Obviously there are tons, I don't consider myself a great guitar player by any means, but when I put the time in and I get the part right, and as long as it's not a part that's too technically advanced, I think I could sound really good.
Yes.
If I feel like I'm not, then I'll hire it out.
Sure.
But I'm definitely going to sing.
Can you tell us what like kind of music it will be?
It's it's vocal, backbeat oriented, rock and roll meets soul meets rhythm and blues.
Perfect. That sounds great.
I like to, like belt shit out. I'm not a crooner. I don't think I have a beautiful voice Actually, it's getting a little more beautiful since I quit smoking.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting a little more beauty to it. It's like, it's not always like gravelly and, but I'm definitely a better, like, sort of shouter singer than I am like a pretty singer.
You're a soulful singer. I would say soulful for sure.
I think that's where I sound best. And yeah, that's where I sound best. I could sing like Freddie King or what's his name? Bright Light, Big City. Who's that guy? I forget his name, but
I
Gary
can't.
Clark, Gary Clark Jr.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. So I could sing in that vein, and I feel like I sound pretty good at it. But there are other areas where I don't feel like I sound good, that I wished I sounded good, that I used to pursue. Like being a balladeer or a crooner, kind of, singing beautifully. But I just don't really have the instrument for that. Maybe someday it will develop, because like I said, since I quit smoking 2 years ago, my voice has changed a little bit.
Yeah. That is amazing. But I think what you have is really, really great. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to
Thanks,
hear more.
Sarah.
So
I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to see, like, anyone listening should follow along with you on Instagram, because you do post some great videos, and they can see you not only drumming but playing guitar and singing as well, and follow up on what you're up to and book a lesson in the future. Get on the waiting
Please
list.
do. Follow me on Instagram. I need more follow. Actually, I don't need anything, which is awesome. I'm 54 now. It's like I'm established, thankfully.
Yes.
I'm not, but so I don't need more followers, but
right.
Follow me anyway, because it's good for my ego.
Absolutely. Right? And it's fun, right?
It is fun.
It's fun to be talking, to an audience when you're posting your pictures and your videos and all of that. And yeah, I'll link everything in the description so everyone can just click on it easily and find you. And then, we're all looking forward to seeing what you come out with, the new book and the album and all of that. And if anyone wants to check out the books that you have out already, Universal Rhythms for Drum Set and Rhythm and Drumming Demystified are your two other books that people can already check out, get some great insight.
Yes, you can find them on Amazon. You can go to davedicenso.com if you want. Hudson, Alfred, those are the publishers for the different books. And Rhythm and Drumming Demystified is also available digitally, which Universal Rhythms is not.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know.
Yes.
And I'll put links to those as well, so everyone can easily get to you and your books and get some insight. And Dave, I hope I get a chance to see you in person soon. I know we're not too far from each other, and sometimes we get to running into each other at different events or concerts or something. So hopefully we'll see each other soon. Maybe we can get a Boston contingent get together going.
Definitely. I just want to say to you that I'm so happy that you're still here in this arena, if you will, that you didn't leave the music industry, the drumming industry.
Thank you.
I loved working with you at Zildjian when you were with Zildjian. I was really, really sad to see you go. And so I'm really glad that you're still here doing your thing, and that we get to, to convene, and we will gather, we'll get together, and we'll have fun like we always do.
Always. So many laughs. And I so appreciate you saying that. And I, one of the things that I committed to post Zildjian was to stick with what I absolutely love. And, I love music and drumming and all of you. And there was no doubt in my mind. And, I did have some opportunities to go elsewhere and do other things. And it was not a hard decision to say no to that, because I really, really love this industry. And, it's where I belong, where we all belong. And I'm happy to still be here too. So yay.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Sarah. I'm glad you chose to follow your heart and stay here.
Absolutely.
In this
Always.
crazy business of ours.
Yes, it is crazy sometimes.
It's crazy, But like you just said, the people, maybe it's like this in other industries where our colleagues are so freaking cool, but I don't think so. I think we're lucky.
I think we're really lucky
I
too.
mean, you're
That's
right.
the word I was just going to use. I mean,
Yeah.
I just came back from 2 days at the Music City Drum Show in Nashville, and again, it is like a family reunion. Every time we're all together, every time this drum and percussion world gets together, it is like you just walk around hugging and just loving people. It's just like the greatest thing ever.
It's awesome.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's amazing. The people, the work that we get to do. I mean, being on one side of it making music, being on another side making the instruments. It's just such a great. It is. It's like a big family. We're all lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sticking around, Sarah.
Absolutely.
We're
And I can't
better
wait to
for it.
give you a big hug in person soon.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks again for
Take
having
care,
us.
Dave.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.